Tons of people are fed up with Minecraft, so allow me to offer you an alternative. This is Vintage Story, and whether it's your first time hearing about it or you're its biggest fan, here are 5 reasons that Vintage Story is better than Minecraft. I know I haven't described the game at all yet, but I want to start off with the fact that Vintage Story has mod support and an active modding community. See, here they are in the Discord. Not only does Vintage Story support mods, the support is built in and has a one-click install feature. Click the link and your game will open and install the mod for you. There are a ton of mods and they range from tweaks to sweeping changes. If you're looking for mods, we do have a mod showcase video. It'll be linked in the description below. I know how important modding is to Minecraft, and no Minecraft alternative would be complete without it, so I wanted to get that out of the way first. Another thing that sets Vintage Story apart from Minecraft quite a bit is lore. Vintage Story has, well, a loose story for you to uncover. There are NPCs around the world who act as traders and a currency system called gears. These little guys are drifters, and they're the main enemy in the game. They come from these things called temporal rifts. You have a gauge kind of like a sanity meter, and when you spend too long underground or in the dark, this will go down. Then you start to get a little crazy. While things seem pretty tame and normal on the surface, there's a lot to uncover, and I don't want to spoil anything for you, but just know that there are Minecraft-like dungeons underground, and they have some pretty cool stuff in them. There are scrolls, books, and other items scattered around the world that will give you a pretty good idea as to what the world was like before your character got there. You play as a race known as the Seraphim, who have started appearing in the world after many years have passed since some kind of apocalypse. Your origin is unclear and your purpose even less. I think it's to make pies. But hey, remember the Discord I mentioned? The one with the modders? It has some other really neat things happening in it that allow you to be a part of the game's active development. For starters, the dev team just streams their creation process there pretty often. There's a specific voice channel just for the dev streams, and it's not uncommon to see 5 to 10 people sitting in silence watching the devs work on the game. On top of being able to watch active development, there are channels in the Discord to make suggestions for the game and even a forum with active discussion between community members. Not only can you give your suggestions through text, you can even make them yourselves. Mods are added to the game. That's right, mods that people in the community have made are added to the game as permanent features with permission, of course. So the dev team and the community are very involved, something Minecraft and Vintage Story share, but the dev team is way more interactive with its community and open to suggestion. It's one of the perks of the game being early access and something that makes it really different from Minecraft. Speaking of MC, VS started as a mod for Minecraft, but has since grown to the point where they really don't feel the same at all. Vintage Story is not held back by the limitations of Minecraft and is able to do a lot of the stuff it can't, even with mods. So, here are all of the major ways that VS plays differently than MC. As soon as you load up a new world, you'll be met with this screen. Here you customize your character and choose your class. That's right, Vintage Story has classes. None of the traits the classes give you are going to make your character super good or terrible at anything, but it's nice to be able to run a little faster or mine a little quicker, to have to eat less often, or have access to some unique craftables. It all adds a little flavor to your playthrough. Once you're in the game, you'll find that everything moves a little slower, except for the bears, and that there are more steps to doing most things. You have to nap rocks, not nap them, but nap them. You break off pieces of one rock with another until you get the shape you need. To make any progress, you'll need to find clay, which you then use to literally make things with clay. You have to make molds for tools and anvils, and you can make pottery and a cooking pot. Then you have to fire the clay, and once it's cooked, you can use it for stuff just like real life. Everything is like that. Stuff like this is the biggest difference between the two. Vintage Story has a strong focus on survival and realism, where Minecraft is a lot less serious in mechanics and play. It feels like VS is for people who grew up with Minecraft and want to play something a little more serious in tone. By now, if you weren't familiar with Vintage Story, you're probably noticing some difference in the world gen. Vintage Story is all around more rugged. I'll be honest, traversal is rough and feels challenging sometimes. There are steep cliffs, chasms, random lakes, mountains, and thick forests that constantly stop you from running around and jumping like a madman. You have to be a little careful, and if you want to traverse an area often, it's worth it to make a path of some kind. Sometimes you have to travel pretty far distances to find the things that you want. This is because the world is generated based on a climate system. If you travel far enough north or south, it will start to get cold. and then you will eventually find yourself in the tundra. The world is infinite, so this pattern will loop of course, but you get the idea. Biomes are big and distinct. Speaking of exploring, let's talk about the ruins and traders and how they are kinda like villages, but not really. They are being overhauled, and if you download the pre-release version of the game, you can get an idea of what they'll be like in the near future, but for now, they are a little bare bones. Traders have limited dialogue, but you are able to interact with them and trade. The ruins are small, long, abandoned stone structures that are half buried in the ground. You'll find little containers in them with all sorts of stuff. Nothing crazy, but most of the things you get from them are always welcome. In the pre-release version, they've gone from this to that. Much larger, intricate, and worth checking out if you ask me. Vintage Story also features seasons, which are a really welcome feature that Minecraft doesn't have. A normal world starts in spring, and you have to make sure you're ready for winter. Food becomes scarce, and it gets cold outside, and snow covers the ground. It's something really simple that adds so much to longer playthroughs. I think some of these snow-covered shots really show the more realistic look the game has to offer. Actually, everything about VS is more realistic. It just feels way more like real life than Minecraft ever could. All of the textures look more realistic, the sounds are more realistic, the lighting is more realistic. It's all of those mods for Minecraft that make it look nice, but it's already built in. It all sort of pulls you in, and probably the most compelling thing about Vintage Story for me is that lots of the stuff you do in the game is very tactile. Hitting rocks against rocks to make spearheads, moving hide from different barrels and mixing liquids to make leather, having to actually burn wood to make charcoal. You can heat an ingot in a forge, hit it with a hammer, and then cool the finished product in water. It just goes above and beyond to make you feel like you're actually playing the game. We've made a whole video about this topic, so I'm really trying not to repeat everything I said in it, but the slower pace and grindy nature of everything makes the game feel weighty, like the days matter, and you gotta get your hands dirty to make progress. This is a feature, but it feels like it's so impactful that it has to be one of the biggest way VS is better than MC. The vanilla game includes chiseling. Chiseling is where you break one block down into smaller blocks. Once you start a chiseled block, you have up to 256 little blocks you can use to make anything you can dream of. If you're like me and love building, this just takes things to a whole other level. I mean, just look at some of the stuff you can do with this. It makes every aspect of building more enjoyable. The level of detail you can create with chiseling really allows you to bring more life into your builds. You can make little plates and cups, clocks and chairs. I mean, the possibilities are endless. Because your chiseled sculptures are small, they can actually be placed around you in natural ways. If I wanted the same statue in Minecraft, it would be way too big to even be considered. With chiseling, it can sit in my living room. Depending on the settings you choose, nearly every block can be chiseled. This means that every surface you build is a canvas waiting for you to add details. VS is a slower game, so the mechanic just feels right at home in it. As an example, say it's winter, it's too cold to go outside for long, so you spend your days indoors whittling away at your next masterpiece. Quality of life features is something that VS excels in. Once you play VS, Minecraft will forever feel a little clunky. Here are some of the ways that Vintage Story makes itself buttery smooth to play. I want to start with creative because I think the game justifies its price with the creative mode alone. Creative has built-in world edit tools. You can cut, copy, paste, you can add and subtract land. I cannot understate just how useful this is and how much it is missed in Minecraft. It's a little clunky, but it can do everything you'd want it to. It's a game changer. You can change the time of day, the weather, and things like the ability to fly all from a menu. There are line, airbrush, and selection tools. You can erode the landscape and even place trees. This combined with the chisel tool makes creativity feel limitless. I can mirror a chiseled building to create something insane and do it quickly. Then there's the handbook. This can be accessed at any time and will tell you all the basics. It tells you how the core mechanics of the game work and how to interact with the game's more complex mechanics like prospecting. Most things in Vintage Story are not as simple as punch trees, get wood, so the handbook really helps to ease new players into the experience. If you can't read, that's okay. There are a ton of YouTube videos aimed at new players learning how to play the game. You also have a map that you can put waypoints on and a mini-map. You can turn the mini-map off if you feel like it distracts from the experience, but it's just so nice to have. You will find all sorts of resources as you play, and you'll want to remember where they are. It's really fun to watch your map slowly be filled by waypoints of all the useful or interesting things you found. From surface copper to flax that's not quite ready to be harvested, there's a lot to keep track of. And I cannot overstate how much I miss having a map from the jump in vanilla Minecraft. You can open more than one chest at a time. You can open more than one chest at a time. Why does every game not have this? I don't understand. It's so useful. I can organize all my stuff so much easier. It's easier to find things I'm looking for. It's just mind-blowing. You can lean your tools against walls. It may not sound like something that matters much, but in the early game, when storage is limited, it's nice to have another way to set some stuff down. It also adds to the immersion. You've been chopping trees all day, and you get to come inside and set your axe against the walls. It just feels like home. It's these little details that make Vintage Story so compelling. You can stack things. You can't stack everything, but you can stack most of the stuff you'd want to. Why have a chest full of firewood when you can stack it? Again, helpful in the early game when space is limited, and just another cool thing that makes the game feel more like real life. When you chop down a tree, the whole thing comes down. This is something that is so much better than Minecraft. No one likes floating trees. You never have to worry about them in Vintage Story. I'm sure there are other things that I'm missing, but when you stack all of these little things on top of each other, you get this really complete base for a game. Everything is convenient, and nothing about the mechanics of the game feel like they're stopping you from playing it besides prospecting. We don't talk about prospecting. Anytime something feels like it's clunky or takes too long, it's a balance issue and not a design issue. So, to sum everything up, Vintage Story is a more serious and realistic Minecraft. It has mod support, an active community, and a passionate dev team. It's immersive and has chiseling. The gameplay is unique enough to not be a Minecraft clone while still feeling familiar, and it has a ton of quality of life features that make the game feel super easy to play. If you're still not convinced that Vintage Story should be your new block game of choice, buy the game and try it. One of the reasons the game is not on Steam is so that the devs can have a more lenient refund policy. If you play for 20 hours and decide it's not for you, you can still return it. And until next time, thanks for watching.